Alright battlers, welcome back to a brand new Fusion Cup video. Today we're taking a look at Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Sandslash does fit in that class of tanks with other things like Probopass that really wall flyers, grass, and a few other Pokemon really hard. For this first match we see Alolan Sandslash going up against Wigglytuff, so the steel typing is going to help it resist the charm. That is a great feature for the Alolan Sandslash. And then here we see the switch into Alolan Marowak. You have to get out of there, especially against the Fire Spin users. Being steel and ice, fire is going to hurt you really badly. I do swap here into Whiscash. I think a mud boy like Whiscash is a great partner for something like Alolan Sandslash because it offers a lot of coverage for the things that you're weak against. In comes that Wigglytuff, and here I'm trying to get the shield from it by going straight for the Blizzard. So because that charm damage is doing so much, I know I don't have time to bait. I go straight for the Blizzard and we take that first shield. Out comes Alolan Sandslash, and here I go straight for Gyro Ball. So Gyro Ball is going to one-shot that fairy type, and that's another reason to love Alolan Sandslash. I know there's been a lot of debate about Bulldoze or Gyro Ball. I think it really depends on your team composition and if you have another fairy counter in your arsenal. For example, if you're facing off against an Alolan Sandslash with Ice Punch and Gyro Ball, I think it'd be a great idea to bring a fire type to accompany your Charmer. But as we saw in this game, you have to get them lined up correctly in order to bring down that Sandslash. For this game, we see Alolan Sandslash going up against that Altaria. Expecting to switch, I open my tray, and here we go with Shiftry. So the past couple of games, I have won the lead, and it's been very easy for me to really showcase Alolan Sandslash's role in this cup. But as we get deeper into the video, you're going to see more interesting situations. So I'm going to shield that expecting the Blizzard, but it was just a Mud Bomb. Whiscash and Shiftry are both extremely fast in this cup, but we were able to get to our Leaf Blade before my opponent gets to another attack. So we do land this Leaf Blade here against the Alolan Ninetales. Excuse me, he doesn't get shielded, but we're able to fire it off. Charm really wrecks that Shiftry so quickly. You have to be very careful of that. But I bring in here my Alolan Sandslash, and as you can probably note at this point with the shields down, Alolan Sandslash is going to comb through this team. That Altaria Sky Attack barely does anything. I'm going to farm the rest of it and then go straight for the Gyro Ball here. Again, one-shotting this fairy and putting an end to it. For game 3, I decided to lead Alolan Sandslash, surprise, surprise, into that Noctowl. So Noctowl is a more durable flying type than Altaria, but it still suffers from a lot of the same weaknesses, particularly to ice. In comes that Shiftry, and we're going to take that Leaf Blade no problem. I'm going to overfarm a couple of Powder Snows, but Shiftry is such a dangerous opponent, you have to be very careful. My opponent's actually going to shield the Shiftry. He did bring it in there, and I think he's trying to get some use out of it, but as you can tell, that Ice Punch just decimates Grass-type Shiftry. In comes Alolan Sandslash, and I am predicting this to have a Bulldoze, Ice Punch, and moveset, so I do bail out in favor of Whiscash. I do defend that first attack, expecting the Bulldoze, and as you can tell there, my opponent stuck in one more Powdered Snow. Here comes the Noctowl, excuse me, and I'm going to try to go up for the Blizzard here. No reason not to. You just want to draw those shields or take down your opponent if you can. Now that the shields are down, my Alolan Sandslash has a pretty clear path, although that other Sandslash in the back is going to be difficult to deal with. My opponent is going to go for a double Sky Attack here. I do shield the second one and then swap out, just in case I need to hold on to my Whiscash to deal with that Alolan Sandslash later on, the one that's in the back that he switched out of. So Gyarados is going to come in here, very squishy, but still a lot of fun to use. I think J-Farm just did a feature on it with Pocket Midget, one of the young up-and-coming superstars in the PvP arena. Both really cool people, including Scrublord as well. Can't forget you, man. So those guys actually announced that they're coming to Florida, and I cannot wait to meet those guys. So cool. It's going to be amazing. In comes Alolan Sandslash, and this lined up exactly how we wanted it to. Ice Punch is going to bring down Noctowl, and we win that round. Going to the next game, I lead Alolan Sandslash into Gyarados. Gyarados is a water flying type, but is still not going to like these ice punches, and because we are a steel type, we are resisting that Dragon Breath pretty well. Here comes the Twister, and as you can tell, it barely did any damage at all. That Alolan Sandslash is so good against the dragons. It's only going to take a couple of ice punches, and my opponent does not switch, so I will continue to put the pressure on them, forcing the shield. Here comes the switch into Altaria, and you know what? Let's stick it out. I'm going to bring my Sandslash straight through this match, firing off another Ice Punch against Altaria, and I have two shields, trainer, so I'm in an excellent position. Double flyers stand little to no chance against Alolan Sandslash. In comes Gyarados again, and we're able to get to another Ice Punch just because we are resisting those Dragon Breath so well. My opponent's last Pokemon is Shiftry, and as you can tell, he brought 3 Pokemon that were weak to Ice. So unless you have a Fire type user on your team, you really need to be careful of something like Alolan Sandslash. In comes Alolan Graveler, and for why not, just for fun, I'm going to double shield the Leaf Blades here, get to the Rock Blast. Alolan Graveler is a Pokemon that I tested about a week ago, and I might still do a feature video on it. Let me know if you'd like to see that. It's a very interesting rock thrower. Going into the next game, we see a replay of what we saw in the first clip, Wiggles versus Alolan Sandslash. However, my opponent does not know that I am packing Gyro Ball. And check this out. Boom! One-shotted that ultra bulky Wigglytuff. Very, very nice for us. I'm going to fire off an Ice Punch here against the opposing ghost Pokemon. Trainers, I noticed that when your opponent's Pokemon disappears, sometimes you can see the name at the top right corner. So if you're in a tournament situation and you really think that you need to do your best to win the game, even in spite of something distracting like that, try to look up at the top right for their name. That might be a dead giveaway as to what that invisible Pokemon is. So Sandslash has done a ton of work. It is resisting these confusions as well, so it's doing really, really well. A lot of Ice Punches are flying here. Again, against the Bronzong, you definitely want Bulldoze. Bulldoze is the superior move. I make a very, very fancy swap, just like the quote-unquote swap from earlier this year into that Venusaur to absorb that Psy Shock, basically using it as another shield. So in comes my Noctowl, and my opponent's running Psychic on their Bronzong, and he does still have a shield. So this is not a great situation for us at all, trainers. We have one shield as well, and it's a race to the Sky Attack, and we barely get there right before the confusion takes us down. GG's. In this match, I lead Altaria into Charizard. Altaria is definitely the superior flyer in this situation. Charizard is great, and it does have that Dragon Claw, but Altaria just has so much bulk and so much raw damage output with the Dragon Breath. So I am actually going to shield this first Dragon Claw from my opponent, and my opponent does not switch out. So this Charizard is bleeding deep into the red. Another Dragon Claw comes our way, and I'm going to commit my second shield to it, but I've got a ton of energy with Altaria, and in most cases, you can burn a shield here. I'm going to go for the Sky Attack against the Noctowl, trying to get this shield and be slightly more energy efficient, and we achieve our objective. So again, going for another Sky Attack, but Noctowl is going to land an attack first. Wing Attack is such a great energy generating move. You're able to get up really quick to those Sky Attacks, and I recently just TM'd my Noctowl to Nightshade, which gives it a more favorable matchup against Bronzong, which is really, really helpful. In comes Alolan Sandslash, and again, showing its durability. Alolan Sandslash is barely affected by that Psychic at all. In comes Venusaur, and you know how this is going to go, trainers. It's going to take at least 2 Frenzy Plants to take down this Alolan Sandslash. And we are so fast with our Powdered Snow, he's only going to be able to get off 1 attack. So the Frenzy Plant is going to rock us a little bit, but here comes the Ice Punch to seal the deal. Going into our next round, I decided to lead Noctowl into Alolan Marowak. So Noctowl is another great Pokemon to bring if you're going to pair it with your Alolan Sandslash, because it offers you a lot of coverage against Ghost-type Alolan Marowak, and it can take on Charizard in most shield scenarios. You definitely don't want to get hit by Blast Burn, but the Dragon Claw is generally resisted by normal-type Noctowl, so you do pretty well there. In comes the Bronzong versus Whiscash matchup, and this is a losing matchup for Bronzong, but Bronzong can really take a chunk out of Whiscash, as you just saw. I'm trying to draw the shield here, and we do, so my opponent did think that was a Blizzard, and that was very successful for us. I'm going to work up almost to another Blizzard, bluffing as hard as I can to get a second shield, and we achieve that. So very, very good position for us. I bring in my Alolan Sandslash, shields down. This thing is a monster against flying-type Pokemon, especially flying dragons. In comes Alolan Marowak, and I have a Sky Attack loaded and ready. So as we talked about in our Noctowl video, one of the best aspects of Noctowl is that it's going to resist the Bone Club and the Shadow Ball from Alolan Marowak, so we were easily going to win that matchup. Here, even if Altaria takes us down, we know it's going to take at least 3 Sky Attacks to bring down Alolan Sandslash, so we are in a very comfortable position, especially given that we have an extra shield. So Noctowl is going to fall, but this game is pretty much done. The Ice Punch is going to be more than enough to wrap this up. For this next game, I lead Alolan Sandslash into Alolan Raticate. This is another interesting Pokemon that I think I want to do a feature video on, but if there's enough interest, I will definitely do it. I think Alolan Raticate is a very dense Pokemon, and if your opponent does not have a Charmer or a counter user, it can be very, very hard to stop. We saw that a little bit in Ferocious. I still have nightmares of when Call Me Jake used his Raticate to Hyper Beam me when shields were down, and that was just so ridiculous. In comes Wiggles, and again, Noctowl showing its muscle as the superior flyer. It's not going to take super effective damage from those charms. We're actually able to get to another Sky Attack. So putting tons and tons of pressure on this Wigglytuff, we are going to take that second shield. And look here, trainers, we are almost able to get to another Sky Attack, but we might have overtapped or missed it. Whatever attack this is not going to KO, and it's just an Ice Beam. And look at that, trainers. Alolan Sandslash is such a monster in the right scenarios. That Ice Steel typing is so good against a lot of the meta here. I do decide to bring in my Venusaur to fire off the Frenzy Plant against this Raticate. This is a Bite Raticate, so it's not going to get to its charge moves very quickly. In comes Alolan Muck, and here we go for the Frenzy Plant. This is going to rock this Alolan Muck pretty hard, as this Community Day move tends to do against every opponent. We know that we just need to shield once and then get to another Frenzy Plant to wrap this up. We do defend the Dark Pulse, and Venusaur is going to knock out the Alolan Muck for the win. This is the last battle of the video, trainers. I'm going to lead that Altaria into Altaria. So the mirror match is on. I'm trying to Dragon Breath down my opponent. Here we're going to QSA this Sky Attack, again trying to do the one finger trick on the right side, but we don't quite get it. We're actually going to work up to another Sky Attack, and in this situation my Altaria is just barely superior to my opponent's. We're actually able to Dragon Breath him down, and we have 2 shields. So already at a enormous advantage. I decided to bring in my Alolan Sandslash. In comes that Venusaur, and here, trainers, I could have stuck it out and just kept my Alolan Sandslash in here the entire time, but I do bring in my Heracross just to do a little bit of damage, because those charms are really going to wear down Heracross. As a Florida native, I really would love Heracross to have some shine in this cup, but being so weak to flying and charm, it's just going to have a really hard time. Here we go, one more time, flexing our Gyro Ball. We are going to land it on this Alolan Ninetales, and that is a one-shot GG's. Trainers, I hope you enjoyed this video. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm over the moon. I just can't even believe it. Thank you so much. Please leave me a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know if you're using Alolan Sandslash in your Fusion Cup team.